She had never taken a single step in her life. Born into privilege, the surgeon's daughter lived in a world of comfort, but one day, everything she knew would be challenged by someone no one expected. A black homeless boy appeared at her doorstep, holding a question that could change her world forever. Would she take the leap? Before we dive deeper, take a moment. If this story already makes you curious or moved, hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and leave a comment about what you think might happen next. Your thoughts could spark an important conversation. She had spent her entire life in the quiet halls of her family's grand home, untouched by struggle. The surgeon's daughter, born into privilege, was surrounded by wealth, opportunity, and every comfort imaginable. Yet despite everything, she had never taken a single step on her own. Her world was orderly, predictable, and safe, a life measured in routines and carefully maintained appearances. Every day passed like the one before, lessons in refinement, endless appointments, and whispered conversations about future plans she barely understood. Outside her walls, the city thrived in chaos she rarely witnessed. Streets buzzed with people fighting to survive, lives unlike hers, lives she barely noticed. That invisible world might as well have been another planet. But fate has a way of crossing paths where they seem impossible. It began on a gray morning when a series of events she could never have imagined started to unfold. A knock at the door, a stranger standing there, so small, so unassuming, yet carrying a presence that made her heart skip. He was a black homeless boy, ragged and wary, looking up at her with something in his eyes she hadn't seen before: courage, determination, maybe even hope. For a moment, she hesitated, unsure what to do. Her life had prepared her for everything except this, an encounter with someone so different, someone from a world she had never touched. Something about him challenged the order she had always taken for granted, and in that instant, the first cracks in her carefully built life began to appear. The boy didn't speak at first. He only stood there, his gaze steady, unafraid, as if he understood something she didn't. Her hands trembled slightly, a sensation she had never felt before. It was as though her entire life of control and predictability was being challenged by someone who had nothing but courage. She tried to retreat, to close the door and return to her comfort, but something in his eyes held her in place. That moment of hesitation was all it took. Outside, the world continued in its harsh rhythm. People passing by, indifferent, the distant hum of traffic, and the occasional shout. But inside, a storm was brewing, a storm she had never prepared for. He extended his hand in a gesture that seemed impossibly simple yet profoundly daring. "Let me try," his eyes seemed to say. No words, but the meaning was clear. She felt the familiar surge of fear and doubt. Privilege had always been her shield, but now it felt like a cage. Could she risk everything she knew on this stranger, this boy from a world she barely understood? The first attempt was hesitant. He guided her gently, moving with care, speaking only in gestures and soft nudges. Her body, untested and fragile, resisted instinctively, refusing to obey. Each step was a battle, each motion a reminder of all she had never done, all she had never felt. And yet, the boy persisted. His presence was unrelenting, a quiet force against the walls of her certainty. As this story unfolds, don't scroll away, every second matters. Keep watching, because what happens next will completely shift the way you think about courage, privilege, and the unseen battles people face. Neighbors began to notice. Whispers floated through the air, judgment hanging like a thick fog. Some eyes were curious, some suspicious, and some scornful. But the boy ignored them all. It was just the two of them in that fragile, tense space where privilege met reality, and the gap between their worlds seemed impossibly wide. Hours passed in this suspended tension, each step a mixture of hope and terror. She could feel the eyes of the city on her, a silent reminder that her struggle was not just personal. It was a confrontation with a society that often judged based on skin color and circumstance. Every misstep felt monumental, every minor success a victory against more than just her own limitations. Then, just as exhaustion began to set in, a stumble, a faltering step that sent her heart racing. For a heartbeat, time seemed to freeze. Would this failure break her? Would it confirm the unspoken prejudices, the invisible barriers she had never truly recognized? But the boy steadied her with a grip that was firm yet gentle, a small, silent promise that she could go further than she had ever imagined. The room fell silent, every eye fixed on her as if they were waiting for her to fail. Each step she took felt heavier than the last, every movement a battle against fear and the weight of expectation. The boy's hands were steady on her arms, guiding, supporting, yet his eyes betrayed a tension she couldn't ignore. It wasn't just her own struggle now, it was a confrontation with the judgment of the world around her, a world that had always decided who mattered and who didn't. A misstep sent her staggering toward the edge of the room, a gasp escaping from the small crowd that had gathered outside the doorway. Her heart pounded like a drum, fear and shame mixing with a desperate, flickering hope. For a moment, she thought she would collapse, that her privilege and inexperience would be exposed for everyone to see. The boy's grip tightened, firm but gentle, a silent anchor in a sea of scrutiny. Whispers rose into murmurs, some questioning, some mocking, yet he didn't flinch. And in that moment, something extraordinary happened. She found strength she never knew existed. Her body, guided by his patience and courage, moved forward again. Each step was a defiance of not just physical limitation, but of the invisible barriers society had placed around her, barriers born of fear, bias, and indifference. Then, just when exhaustion threatened to take over, she felt it, a balance, a rhythm, a first glimpse of triumph. The crowd held its breath, the tension almost unbearable, as she took another step, and then another. The impossible was happening. A life of limitation was breaking open, not because of privilege or entitlement, but because of trust, courage, and the unwavering determination of someone the world had written off. And in that heartbeat, she realized that this moment wasn't just about her, it was a challenge to everything she had believed, a question to everyone watching. How far are we willing to let courage cross the line society draws, and who will rise when the world doubts them most? She stood there, finally steady on her own feet, feeling the weight of every expectation, every doubt, and every invisible barrier fall away. The room was quiet, yet alive with unspoken awe. The boy, who had walked into her life like a whisper, had not just helped her take her first steps, he had changed the way she saw the world and the way the world could see her. For the first time, she understood the fragile line between privilege and powerlessness, between comfort and courage. Her life, once insulated by walls and wealth, now carried the imprint of someone society had long ignored. A homeless black boy had shown her that strength isn't measured by status or wealth, it's measured by resilience, by compassion, by the willingness to stand up and reach out when the world refuses to notice. The impact stretched far beyond that room. Word of her journey spread quietly at first, then louder, touching hearts, sparking conversations, and challenging assumptions. People began to see that injustice isn't always loud or violent. It can be silent, insidious, hiding in the spaces where privilege and indifference meet. And sometimes, the smallest voices, the ones society underestimates, carry the power to rewrite the story entirely. She knew she would never forget the boy, nor the lesson he had given her, that empathy, courage, and action can bridge worlds that seem impossibly distant. And the question lingered, echoing far beyond her own experience. How many lives could be transformed if we dared to notice, to reach across the line society draws, to act where others would look away? If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that challenges the way we see the world. And share this video with someone who needs to hear it. The impact can start with one small action. This wasn't just her story, it was a reflection of countless untold stories of racial injustice, courage, and humanity. And now, it was a challenge to anyone who watched. Will you be the one who sees what others ignore, who acts when the world hesitates, who changes the life of someone the world has overlooked?